For many, SeaWorld conjures images of exhilarating rides, captivating dolphin encounters, and the powerful spectacle of killer whale performances. However, this carefully constructed image obscures a more disquieting reality, one marked by allegations of exploitation, compromised animal well-being, and tragic instances of loss. The story of SeaWorld traces its roots back to the early 1960s, when four ambitious UCLA graduates envisioned an innovative fusion of underwater dining and marine life exhibition. While their initial concept proved impractical, their entrepreneurial spirit led them to establish a marine zoological park. The first SeaWorld park was an undeniable success, attracting 400,000 visitors in its inaugural year. Building on this momentum, SeaWorld expanded its reach, opening additional parks in Ohio and Florida, before culminating in the unveiling of its largest park in Texas in 1988. A pivotal moment arrived in 1976 when the publishing conglomerate Harcourt Brace Jovanovich, HBJ, acquired SeaWorld for $12.7 million. Subsequently, HBJ made the strategic decision to divest its theme park division to Anheuser-Busch, integrating the SeaWorld parks into its Busch Entertainment Corporation. In 2009, the private equity firm the Blackstone Group stepped in, acquiring Busch Entertainment and rebranding the entity as SeaWorld Parks and Entertainment. Killer whales, often revered as symbols of freedom and raw power, have become central to the ethical debates surrounding captivity. Gabriella Cowperthwaite's impactful 2013 documentary, Blackfish, acted as a catalyst, exposing the potential ethical shortcomings within SeaWorld. This compelling film raised profound questions regarding the morality of confining orcas in captivity, underscoring the substantial risks to both animal welfare and human safety. The documentary primarily focused on the heart-wrenching journey of Tilikum, a massive male orca weighing in excess of 12,000 pounds, who was tragically involved in the deaths of 3 individuals. Since its inception, SeaWorld has been actively involved in the capture of orcas, ostensibly for the purpose of showcasing them in performances. The methods employed during these hunts are often described as brutal and invasive, involving the use of spotter planes to locate the whales, high-speed boats to pursue them, nets to ensnare them, and, disturbingly, explosives to drive them into confined coves. Once contained, younger orcas are selected, often forcibly separated from their mothers, an act that inflicts significant trauma on both animals. The orca known as Shamu is remembered as the first to perform in a SeaWorld orca show, making her debut in 1965. The circumstances surrounding Shamu's capture are particularly harrowing, with accounts suggesting that her mother was killed during the process, leaving the young orca orphaned and vulnerable. Shamu's life was tragically cut short just 6 years later. Despite this premature death, SeaWorld continued to exploit the Shamu name, using it for other performing orcas and even trademarking it, a decision that many critics view as insensitive and exploitative. According to National Geographic, over 70 orcas have been born in captivity, while approximately 30 have either died in utero or were stillborn since 1977. While orcas are believed to have lifespans extending up to 100 years in their natural habitat, captive orcas rarely survive beyond 30 years within the confines of SeaWorld's tanks. The disruption of family bonds is especially troubling, given that orcas typically maintain close relationships with their mothers throughout their lives. In the artificial environment of captivity, orcas are susceptible to depression and exhibit heightened aggression. It is standard practice at SeaWorld to separate orca calves from their mothers at a young age, sometimes as early as 4 years old. The separation of Kasaka from her calf Takara serves as a stark example of the emotional distress inflicted by this practice. Following the separation, Kasaka displayed signs of extreme anguish, floating listlessly in her tank and emitting a series of unusual vocalizations that suggested deep sorrow and anxiety. Beyond the emotional and psychological trauma of separation, the physical environment of captivity poses considerable challenges for orcas. SeaWorld's tanks are drastically smaller than the vast ocean ranges that orcas are adapted to. The tanks are reportedly only 35 feet deep, while orcas in the wild are capable of diving to depths of up to 1,000 feet and traversing distances exceeding 100 miles each day. The limited space and artificial conditions can contribute to psychological distress, boredom, and abnormal behaviors. Furthermore, captive orcas, such as Tilikum and Lolita, were often subjected to prolonged periods of isolation, further exacerbating their suffering. Lolita, for instance, has spent years confined to a pool that is less than twice her body length, while Tilikum was confined to a small medical pool for extended durations. The cramped conditions and isolation are believed to contribute to a range of health problems and shortened lifespans. The documentary Blackfish brought the plight of Tilikum, who spent decades in captivity at SeaWorld, to the attention of a global audience. The film chronicles Tilikum's life from his capture as a young calf to his death in 2017, providing a detailed account of the mistreatment he allegedly endured. Throughout his time at SeaWorld, Tilikum was reportedly compelled to perform for food, subjected to artificial insemination to produce offspring, and confined in undersized tanks, isolated from other orcas and deprived of any meaningful control over his environment. This treatment is widely believed to have contributed to his growing aggression and behavioral abnormalities. In 2010, Tilikum was implicated in the death of his trainer, Dawn Brunchot, an incident that was captured on video and sparked widespread outrage. The details of the tragedy shocked many people. The death of Dawn Brunchot ignited a fierce debate about the ethics of keeping orcas in captivity and the safety of the trainers who work with them. SeaWorld found itself under intense scrutiny, facing calls for increased regulation and greater transparency. Tilikum was subsequently kept in near solitary confinement for a period of time, a decision that further fueled the controversy surrounding his treatment. However, the years of captivity had already inflicted lasting damage on him, both physically and psychologically. Tilikum eventually succumbed to a bacterial lung infection in 2017, leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape the discussion about the welfare of marine mammals. Under mounting pressure from animal rights organizations and facing declining attendance numbers, SeaWorld announced a series of significant changes to its operations. The company pledged to discontinue its orca breeding program and phase out the use of orcas in theatrical performances, marking a significant shift in its business model. While these changes were welcomed by many animal welfare advocates, some critics argued that they did not go far enough. Organizations such as PETA have continued to advocate for the release of captive orcas into seaside sanctuaries, arguing that these highly intelligent and social animals deserve to live in more natural and stimulating environments where they can engage in natural behaviors and experience a greater degree of autonomy. These efforts, combined with increasing public awareness, have had a tangible impact on SeaWorld's financial performance, forcing the company to rethink its approach to animal care and entertainment. In 2016, SeaWorld discontinued its live theatrical shows, a move seen as an attempt to address criticism and improve its public image. Despite these changes, SeaWorld has continued to face financial difficulties. Advocates for animal rights view this as an indication that the company's past practices are no longer sustainable and that a more fundamental shift is needed. In 2023, PETA remains committed to monitoring SeaWorld's actions, advocating for the well-being of the animals in its care, and educating the public about the ethical implications of marine parks. While SeaWorld has undoubtedly provided entertainment and educational opportunities for millions, it has also faced considerable criticism regarding its treatment of orcas and its role in perpetuating the captivity of marine mammals. The ongoing dialogue surrounding the welfare of these magnificent creatures and the ethics of keeping them in captivity remains vitally important as we strive to strike a more sustainable and compassionate balance between human entertainment and animal well-being.